walk into 3 different bookstores, one Jewish, one Catholic, one Protestant, and buy a Bible from each, you'll come home with 3 different books, not different translations, different contents. Some have 24 books, some have 46, some have 66. How did we end up with multiple versions of what's supposed to be the Bible? And here's the deeper question. How do we know any of them are accurate after being copied by hand for over 2,000 years? Before we dive in, some terminology. Scholars use Hebrew Bible instead of Old Testament because Old Testament implies something new replaced it, a Christian theological claim, not a neutral description, right? We'll also use BCE and CE, before Common Era and the Common Era, the standard academic dating system, right? This matters because we're doing religious studies here, not theology, right? We're examining history, not advocating for any tradition. Every tradition gets equal respect, right? Our story starts in Alexandria, Egypt, around the 3rd century BCE. A large Jewish community there spoke Greek, not Hebrew. They needed their scriptures in their language. The result was the Septuagint, that's a Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible. But the translators didn't just translate, they reorganized. The Hebrew Bible arranges books as Torah, prophets, and the writings, ending with Chronicles, a call to return to Jerusalem. And the Septuagint reorganized everything into a timeline, past, present, future. Right? Historical books first, wisdom literature in the middle, prophets at the end, pointing forward to something coming. This Greek version became Christianity's Old Testament, connecting the new faith to ancient respected tradition. The Septuagint included some writings that weren't in the Hebrew 24 books. These texts, written between 200 BCE and 100 CE, were used by Jewish communities but held a secondary status. Christians call these the Apocrypha, meaning hidden or secondary writings. Books like Tobit, Judith, and the Maccabees. For centuries, their status remained ambiguous. Right? Then came the Protestant Reformation in the 1500s. Right? Reformers rejected these books as non-canonical. Catholics responded by formally confirming them as scripture. The result, 3 different canons existing today, same ancient sources, different official lists of what counts as Bible. Right? Now, all of this raises a crucial question. With centuries of copying and translating, how do we know the text is reliable? Here's the problem. No original biblical manuscripts exist. None. We have only copies of copies of copies. Right? Before 1947, the oldest Hebrew Bible manuscripts dated to around 900 CE, over 1,000 years after the texts were composed. That's a massive gap. How could anyone trust the text hadn't been corrupted? Then came one of archaeology's greatest discoveries. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd stumbled into caves near the Dead Sea in the Judean desert, inside ancient jars containing scrolls. Right? Over the next decade, archaeologists found more caves, more scrolls, nearly 1,000 manuscripts total. These were the Dead Sea Scrolls, likely a library hidden during the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE. The collection included a nearly complete Isaiah scroll and the fragments of almost every biblical book. The dates, some fragments reach back to the 4th and 3rd centuries BCE, over 1,000 years older than anything we had before. The significance cannot be overstated. In one discovery, manuscript evidence leaped backward 1,300 years. Look at this timeline. Right? Before 1947, our oldest manuscripts dated to around 900 CE. The Dead Sea Scrolls pushed that back to 300, 200 BCE. We could now compare texts separated by over a millennium. Right? The result, despite some differences, spelling variations, minor wording changes, the correspondence was remarkably high. Right? The telephone game concern about ancient texts. The Dead Sea Scrolls provided hard evidence of stable transmission across centuries. Let's be precise about what this means. The Dead Sea Scrolls don't prove perfect preservation. Variations exist. Scholars have cataloged thousands of differences between manuscript traditions, but the core finding stands. Despite being copied by hand for over 2,000 years, the biblical text remained remarkably stable, not identical across every copy, but far more consistent than skeptics assumed and far more varied than fundamentalists claimed. The evidence supports neither extreme position. So what does this mean for you as a reader? Right? First, know your canon. Right? When you pick up any Bible, you're picking up one tradition's decisions about which books belong. Right? A Catholic Bible includes Maccabees, a Protestant Bible doesn't. A Jewish Bible ends with Chronicles. Right? Understanding this isn't undermining scripture, it's understanding history. Right? Second, recognize that book order carries meaning. Right? The Hebrew Bible ends looking backward to Jerusalem. Right? The Christian Old Testament ends looking forward to a Messiah. Same books, different theological statements through arrangement alone. Right? Third, you now have tools to evaluate claims. When someone says the Bible has been corrupted over centuries, you can point to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Right? We have manuscripts from 300 BCE that we can compare to manuscripts from 900 CE. The evidence shows remarkable stability. When someone claims the Bible is perfectly preserved, you can note that scholars have documented thousands of variations across manuscripts. The truth lies between the extremes, stable transmission with acknowledged differences. That's what the evidence actually shows. Here's the deeper insight. The existence of different canons isn't a problem to solve. It reflects real historical communities making real decisions about sacred texts. Jews, Catholics, and Protestants didn't accidentally end up with different Bibles. Each community, in specific historical moments, determined which writings carried authority for them. Right? Understanding this history doesn't undermine these texts. It reveals how seriously communities took them. The question was never which books are in the Bible. Right? The question was always, which books does our community recognize as scripture? 3 bookstores, 3 Bibles, 3 communities, 1 ancient collection of texts that humans have copied, translated, organized, and debated for over 2,000 years. That's not a scandal, that's history. Summary statistics: total duration 640, frame count 11, word count 1,000, average pace 2.5 words a second, all conceptual diagrams specified with unique visual concepts, teaching flow, hook, frame 0, build, frames 1-3, deepen, frames 4-7, apply, frames 8-11,